Give me 20 minutes. I'm not offering you a quick fix, I'm offering you a ritual. A space sealed by intention, where time ceases to be chronological and becomes alchemical. Here there are no empty promises or magic formulas. Only you, standing before the mirror of your consciousness, with the ability to rewrite everything. Because 99% of your problems aren't what they seem. They're symbols. They're masters in disguise. And this text is the temple where you'll learn to decipher them. Breathe. You've crossed the threshold. Now the real journey begins. Before starting this video, remember to subscribe and like. For years you've been taught to look outward, to pursue solutions like someone chasing shadows, to believe that the conflict lies within others, within the economy, within destiny, within what you can't control. But today, for the first time, I invite you to pause, to cross an invisible threshold, to enter the temple of reflection. Imagine you're alone, not in solitude but in presence. In front of you, a silent room. The walls breathe in ancient calm. In the center, a dust-covered mirror. It's not just any mirror. It's the mirror you never dared to look at. The one that reflects not your face but your story, your decisions, your thoughts, repeated like echoes that shape your reality without you knowing. You approach. The air thickens, not out of fear but out of truth. Because you know that what is about to be revealed isn't external. It's internal. It's your vibration, your frequency, your invisible field that creates the visible. You reach out. You touch the glass. The dust falls away as if releasing forgotten memories. And there, in that reflection that begins to emerge, you see something more than an image. You see patterns. You see cycles. You see the same conflict in different disguises. The same emotion with different names. The universe doesn't punish you. It shows you. Reveals to you. It invites you to remember. Every problem you've ever faced is nothing more than a symbol. A hidden geometry waiting to be deciphered. The mirror doesn't judge. It only reflects. And in that reflection, alchemy begins. Because when you dare to look with awareness, the mirror ceases to be a threat and becomes a portal. A portal to yourself. A portal to the root. You breathe. Time stops. You're no longer in the world of doing. You're in the world of being. And from there, everything changes. Not because the problem disappears, but because you change places. You stop being a victim. You become an observer. You stop reacting. You begin to create. And then you understand, there's nothing to resolve. You just have to remember. Remember that the world doesn't speak to you with words, but with reflections. That every difficult situation is an invitation to see yourself more clearly. That the mirror isn't broken. It was just covered up. Now, with the crystal clear, you see yourself. Not as before. Not as the character who survives. But as the awakening creator. The one who can transform their reality in 20 minutes of radical presence. The one who can look at chaos and see the pattern. The one who can welcome conflict and turn it into a master. Thus begins the journey. Not with answers but with a look. Not with solutions but with awareness. Because when you change, everything changes. And the mirror simply follows you. You've cleaned the mirror. You've seen the pattern. You've understood that the conflict isn't outside, but in the reflection you project. But now comes the second threshold. The most difficult. The most subtle. The one crossed not with force but with surrender. Because if the mirror reveals, silence transforms. Everything that disturbs you, everything that agitates you, everything that makes you feel like you can't take it anymore. That's not the problem. It's the noise. The noise that prevents you from hearing what's essential. The noise that separates you from your center. The noise that convinces you you're lost when in reality you're just distracted. And then I invite you into the empty room. There are no words, no explanations, just a lit candle and your breath. The world keeps turning out there, but you've stopped time. You've created a sacred space, an invisible sanctuary where the soul can speak. At first, silence is uncomfortable. It confronts you. It shows you everything you've been avoiding feeling. But if you stay, if you don't run away, if you breathe, something begins to change. The noise dissolves. The mind quiets. And what seemed urgent is revealed as irrelevant. Because in silence, everything becomes organized. Emotions find their channel. Thoughts align. Energy is purified, and you, for the first time in a long time, listen to yourself. Not to the voice of fear, not to the voice of judgment, but to the voice that has always been there, waiting for you to remember it. It's the voice of the inner master, the one that doesn't shout, the one that whispers, the one that doesn't impose, the one that guides. And when you listen to it, everything makes sense. You don't need to solve anything. You just need to be. Because from silence, the answers come on their own. Decisions are revealed. Peace takes hold. This is the power of the second threshold. No more doing. No more understanding. No more controlling. Just stopping. Just breathing. Just allowing silence to do its work. Because silence is not emptiness. It is presence. It is medicine. It is alchemy. And when you leave this room, you won't be the same. Not because the world has changed, but because you've shifted your frequency. You've lowered the volume of the noise and raised the vibration of your consciousness. You've remembered that true power lies not in compulsive action, but in conscious pause. This is how 99% of your problems are transformed. Not with struggle, not with effort, but with silence. Because when you become still, the universe listens and responds. You've crossed the mirror. You've entered silence. You've felt the noise dissolve and consciousness emerge. But now, at this third threshold, the universe throws you a question you can't avoid. Are you willing to see the hidden pattern behind the chaos? Because chaos isn't disorder. It's geometry not understood. It's a coded message waiting to be read with fresh eyes. What you call a problem, an obstacle, a crisis, is nothing more than an incomplete figure demanding your attention. And if you dare to look beyond the symptom, you will discover the secret design that sustains it. Every conflict has a shape, a structure, an internal logic that repeats itself like a broken mandala. And you, without knowing it, have been tracing that shape over and over again. In your relationships, in your decisions, in your emotions. The pattern doesn't change because you don't see it. But today something different happens. Today you decide to observe. Not from the judging mind, not from the reacting ego, but from the contemplating consciousness. You step back, you breathe, and you begin to map the chaos. What emotion sustains it? What belief fuels it? What story repeats it? And then you see it. You see it's not chance. You see it's not punishment. You see it's design. A design you yourself have created, from ancient memories, from unhealed wounds, from invisible pacts that continue to operate in your shadow. But there is no guilt, only revelation. Because by seeing the pattern, you are no longer trapped in it. You become the cartographer of your own psyche, the alchemist who transforms geometry into wisdom, the creator who redraws your reality from the roots up. And there, amidst the chaos, beauty appears. The beauty of understanding that everything has meaning. That every problem is a sacred figure inviting you to evolve. That every repetition is an opportunity to choose differently. You don't need to destroy chaos. You just need to decipher it. Because when you understand it, it stops being a threat and becomes a map. A map that guides you to your center, to your truth, to your power. This is the art of seeing the geometry of chaos. Not as a victim, but as a visionary. Not as a sufferer, but as a revealer. Because when you see the pattern ceases to govern you. And you, finally, begin to create from consciousness. You've seen the pattern. You've understood that chaos has form, that every problem is a sacred figure waiting to be deciphered. But now, at this fourth threshold, the secret that transforms geometry into light is revealed to you. Gratitude. Not as a passing emotion, but as an alchemical act. As a ritual of transmutation. Because what you don't give thanks for haunts you. What you reject repeats itself. What you curse grows stronger. But what you honor is set free. And today, before the invisible altar of your conscience, you are invited to do the unthinkable. Give thanks for the conflict. Give thanks for the wound. Give thanks for the mirror that showed you what you didn't want to see. It's not easy, I know. To be grateful for what hurt, what broke you, what made you doubt yourself. But that's where the power lies. Because when you are grateful, you don't justify. You understand. You don't resign yourself. You rise. You don't submit. You free yourself. Imagine placing each problem on an altar. not to worship it but to observe it with reverence. Like someone contemplating a stone that has been smoothed by their path. Like someone recognizing that without that storm there would be no root. And then something shifts. Energy moves. The conflict ceases to be a burden and becomes a teacher. Gratitude isn't a thought. It's a vibration. A frequency that reorders your field. That clears your memories. That opens doors where there were only walls before. And when you practice it as a ritual, as a conscious act, as a daily decision, the universe responds. Because the universe doesn't give you what you ask for. It gives you what you put out. And when you put out gratitude, even for what you don't understand, even for what still hurts, you're saying, I trust. I'm ready. I've understood. And that understanding is the key that opens the next door. You don't need fancy words. Just presence. Just intention. Just the humble act of looking at your life and saying, thank you for everything. Thank you even for this. Because that seems like a problem today will become a symbol tomorrow. And that symbol, if you honor it, will become wisdom. This is how reality is transformed. Not through struggle, but through gratitude. Not through rejection, but through recognition. Because when you give thanks, the universe celebrates. And what once seemed impossible begins to flow. This is the fourth threshold. The altar of gratitude. The place where conflict becomes light. And you, the alchemist, you have been grateful for the conflict. You have honored the chaos. You have understood that every shadow contains a lesson, and that gratitude is the fire that transforms wounds into wisdom. But now, at this fifth threshold, the choice is presented to you. Not as an idea, but as a sacred act. Because everything you have seen, everything you have felt, everything you have understood, is of no use if you don't decide. And I'm not talking about an ordinary decision. I'm talking about a decision that cuts, that separates, that marks a before and after. A decision not made with the mind but with the soul. Because there are moments in life where understanding isn't enough. You have to light the torch and walk. This is that moment. You've lived trapped in patterns, in repetitions, in narratives that no longer belong to you. You've been loyal to emotions that wear you down, to thoughts that limit you, to habits that drain you. But today, before the fire of your conscience, you are being asked to choose. To say, enough. To declare, no more. And that declaration isn't just mental. It's energetic. It's vibrational. It's ritual. Because when you decide from deep within, the universe listens. And responds. Not because you force it to, but because you align it. Because by cutting away from what you no longer are, you make space for what you do. Decision is fire. It burns the old. It illuminates the new. And you, in making it, become a torch, a beacon, a conscious creator. You no longer react. You no longer repeat. You no longer survive. Now you choose. Now you lead. Now you transform. But beware, the world will try to seduce you with what's familiar. It will offer you excuses, distractions, reasons not to change. And that's where your decision must be firm. Like a seal. Like a pact with yourself. Like a ceremonial act that isn't negotiable. Because when you decide from consciousness, there's no turning back. The field reorganizes. Doors open. Synchronicities appear. And what once seemed impossible becomes inevitable. This is the power of the fifth threshold. The decision that cuts through the past and ignites the future. The choice that doesn't wait for external conditions, but is born from the fire within. And you, by making it, become the alchemist of destiny. You don't need the world to change. You just need to decide. Because when you choose clearly, the universe aligns with your fire. And everything begins to transform. You have decided. You have lit the fire. You have cut through the old and sealed a pact with yourself. But now, at this sixth threshold, you are given a tool that does not belong to the physical world but to the invisible world. The word. Because if silence purifies and decision transforms, the word creates. What you say, what you think, what you narrate, is what you manifest. And until now, without knowing it, you've been telling a story that doesn't belong to you. An inherited, conditioned, repeated story. A story where you were the one who suffers, the one who waits, the one who can't. But today, faced with the blank scroll of your conscience, you are invited to rewrite. Not as someone who invents, but as someone who remembers. Because you are not the character. You are the author. And every word you choose is a seed that germinates in your reality. If you say, I can't, the universe contracts. If you say, I am, the universe expands. It's that simple. It's that sacred. So you take the parchment, you breathe, and you begin to write. Not from the mind that doubts, but from the soul that knows. You write a new version of yourself. A version where the problem has already been solved. Where the conflict was a teacher. Where the shadow was a guide. Where you finally remember your power. And every phrase you write is a ceremonial act. An invocation. A vibrational declaration that reorders your field. You no longer say, I'm broken. You say, I'm rebuilding myself. You no longer say, I don't know what to do. You say, I trust my wisdom. You no longer say, this is difficult. You say, this is strengthening me. Because words don't just describe, they direct. They don't just communicate, they summon. And you, by using them consciously, become a creator. An architect of your destiny. A weaver of realities. This is the art of rewriting. Not to escape the past, but to redeem it. Not to deny what was lived, but to give it new meaning. Because when you narrate from consciousness, the past is organized, the present is illuminated, and the future opens up. And there, in that intimate and powerful act, you realize that you don't need to change the world. You just need to change the story you tell about it. Because when you change the narrative, the universe changes the script. This is how the sixth threshold is activated. The power of the conscious word. The art of rewriting reality. And you, in doing so, become a sacred voice. A creative verb. An alchemist of language that transforms the invisible into form. The symbolic into experience. The impossible into the inevitable. You have rewritten your story. You have written new words on the invisible parchment of your consciousness. You have understood that reality is not imposed. It is narrated. But now, at this seventh and final threshold, it is not about creating something new. It is about remembering what has always been with you. Because the journey does not end in transformation. It ends in recognition. The recognition that you are the master you were seeking. Throughout this journey, you have crossed mirrors, silences, hidden geometries, altars, and fires. You have undone knots, lit torches, and uttered words that vibrate like mantras. And now, looking back, you don't see a path filled with obstacles. You see a rite of initiation. You see a ceremony that has returned you to yourself. You don't need more techniques. You don't need more answers. What you need now is to integrate. Breathe deeply. Sit in the center of your inner temple and say, I am. Because that I am isn't an affirmation. It's an activation. It's the echo of your essence that has been waiting to be heard. You are no longer the seeker. You are the rememberer. You are no longer the doubter. You are the chooser. You are no longer the repeater. You are the creator. And that creation doesn't come from outside. It comes from your vibration, from your presence, from your ability to stand in your truth, even when the world is shaking. This is the return. Not to the past, but to the origin. Not to the character, but to the creator. Because when you recognize your power, everything else falls into place. Relationships align. Decisions are simplified. Life ceases to be a struggle and becomes a dance. And if you ever forget, if the noise ever returns, if the mirror ever becomes covered in dust again, remember this. You only need 20 minutes. 20 minutes of radical presence. 20 minutes of silence, gratitude, decision, and conscious speech. 20 minutes to return to the center, to the fire, to the altar, to the master. Because the master isn't in the book, or in the guru, or in the external ritual. The master is you. And this journey wasn't about finding you. It was about remembering you. Now the circle is complete. The temple is lit. And you are ready to create from the root. From consciousness. From the power that never left, just waiting for you to look at it. Give me 20 minutes, and you yourself will remember that you have always been the creator. You have walked through 7 chambers of consciousness. You have lit candles in the darkness, listened to the silence, traced invisible geometries. And now, as you close this ritual, you do not take away a solution. You take away a power. The power to choose your vibration. The power to look at chaos and see the pattern. The power to transform every problem into a portal. You don't need more time. You just need presence. And if you ever forget, remember this. Give me 20 minutes, and you yourself will remember that you have always been the creator. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. See you in the next video.